Okay, so dietary fats, do we need them? Yes, we want to focus on the green, the PUFAs, right? The acronym for polyunsaturated fatty acids. And again, these are essential. Your body requires fat and cholesterol for every single cell in the body. These are the essential. The omega-3s are the ones that are crucial for brain development, also for heart health. Arachidonic acid is also needed. And then we need them to carry fat-soluble vitamins. So you don't want to go on an extremely low-fat diet. You want to go with no less than 20%, no more than 30%. You don't want to have high-fat diets before exercise because that's going to slow digest. It's going to feel like a rock in the stomach. But you do want to limit saturated fat like lard, butter, too much animal fats, and focus on the plant sources, and then incorporate your oily fish with your omega-3 fats, 2 to 3 fish seafood meals weekly. There's so much information about omega-3 fats and brain development. Neal points out all the time, even your doctors will recommend that, pregnant women take an omega-3 supplement if they're not getting enough from their diet, because it is so crucial to the proper development of kids. Okay, calcium is a key nutrient of concern. We need more for not just muscle contraction, but also bone density and growth. The requirements are higher than at any other time in life. So that equates to about 3 to 4 servings per day of these. You can see here on the chart, the serving size and the typical amount. So you can see how milk, a few glasses of milk a day is going to cover the basis for a lot of people, and how lower it is in greens. Yes, you can get them from greens. So once again, if you're following a vegan diet, that's a lot. You got to do a lot of careful planning there to get enough covered. And then vitamin D, our sunshine vitamin, this is critical. This is critical in the news constantly nowadays, because we now are seeing the close relationship between vitamin D and immune system, not just bone health, but immune system, inflammation, and a lot of other things. Most people, they get 90% of their vitamin D from the sun, 10% from the diet. But if you're not going outside, or if you live in a cloudy area, you don't eat, any of these food sources on here, you are at risk of getting deficient, and it's widespread. And Neal's got some stats to share with you on this. So why don't you cover this, Neal? Talk about bone mass.
Yeah, this is really important because, as I've been lecturing around the world, and especially about kids and supporting their diet with the proper sort of nutrients if they're not getting it from their food, this has got to be number one here, and vitamin D as well, because calcium doesn't work without vitamin D. And every one of your kids is low in vitamin D. If they're not taking a multivitamin mineral, every one of your kids, and there's no exception. Okay, so but this is what people miss. Look at the way bone grows in the body. By the time you finish puberty, you're pretty much 80% of your bone is done. Done. So if you haven't built much because you didn't have enough calcium growing up and vitamin D growing up, which most kids don't, unless somehow they're continue to drink milk, okay, like all your world's strongest men from Iceland and from Sweden and from all those, but they never stop drinking milk, so their bones never break. So so the bone mass is freaky if you've had all the calcium and vitamin D that you've needed growing up. But if you stop drinking milk, which a lot of kids do because their parents stopped drinking it, they don't put it in there anymore, or they read some weird internet note or something about milk, so they flipped out of it. You miss your calcium. There's other ways to get calcium, cottage cheese, and other things, so don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying that was the easiest way to get both of those things. And if you don't get enough during those years, you can't go back and fix that. So as you can see what happens to bone here. If your peak mass is 30. From there on out, you only go backwards. We call that resorption. It just begins to break it down. But if you have enough bone, you won't live long enough to lose enough to have osteoporosis. But you look at every 75% of Americans over the age 70 have osteoporosis or osteopenia at the beginning of that. They fracture like this. They fall. All of these things are all part of not getting enough calcium and vitamin D. So you can't go back and fix those windows of growth opportunity. It has set you up for weakness for the rest of your life. Hey, if we all died at 30, we'd be fine. Who cares? But now that we have figured out how to live longer and longer and longer, this is such an important nutrient. By the way, it's so important in 2020, which is right now. By law, every food has to tell you how much calcium's in it, right? So that's how important it is right now. So just make sure your kids are getting anywhere from at least 1,200, 1,300 milligrams of calcium.